And good evening once again to all of you out there. Welcome back to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. And tonight, we're just going to do a bit of what I would refer to as a shorty vlog, in which I'm just, I don't know if this is going to be a weekly thing or more of a bi-monthly thing or whether it'll just be whenever the fuck I feel like it. And this is basically wanted to discuss just some topics in which I find interesting. Usually based on sort of like the vlog that I did about the 10 best runs of, or the 10 best creative team runs or creator runs of a particular comic book, back however many months ago that was. Every once in a while I'll see something that kind of inspires me, and it caused me to start thinking. So, first, the thing that I do, again, want to put out there to you, to my viewers, is I know that some of you have already given your feedback on this, and I appreciate all of that, but again, just talking about the contest, once again, just reiterating, this is for pretty much anybody can enter, and this is essentially for my viewers to recommend a book to me that you know that I'm not reading. Or if you don't know that I'm not reading it, if it's like one of your first time here, if it's one of your first times here, then welcome and please subscribe. And basically it's all about, if you recommend a book to me that you know that I'm not reading, that you think that I should be reading, and whatever book that is that I think is the best book that's recommended to me, then I will send that person some really cool gifts. So just given the entries I'll talk about later when we bring that to a close. So anyway, to the meat of this, and which is kind of twofold because of kind of an interesting announcement to make later. It's not really an announcement per se, but it's important to me personally. Because it's one of our... Anyway, I'll get to that later. So... Dry throat. Anyway, so on Newsarama the other day, you know, they have their little top 10 lists, and they explored possibilities for the Phase 2 of Marvel Now, because obviously, you know, as with the New 52, they are going to be introducing new titles down the road, and who they thought should be the characters that are reinvigorated, that are given their own titles, you know, ongoing titles in the as part of Marvel Now. Now, I actually liked the choices that they had, and I have them as they're ranked, but didn't really talk too much about who the creative team should be in particular. So I just had some thoughts about who they chose, and who I think are good choices by and large, and who should be brought to bear when basically you know, if and when these books do actually start, who I think should take them, or the best people at Marvel or other places have been with Marvel over time. With the exception of one person. The only person that I did not include in any of these was Ed Brubaker, because I know that he's doing his creator-owned thing right now, and obviously I didn't include like Brian K. Vaughan or anything like that, because they're definitely, you know, doing fine with their creator-owned stuff right now, so don't want to rock that boat. But the people that I do know that are working or have worked with recently that basically don't have any kind of exclusivity agreements or anything like that, Um, just brought to bear some people that I thought would be good for these titles. So the first person that they mentioned, kind of the number 10 on their list, was Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange, to me, has always been a great supporting character, but has never been a great standalone character, really with the exception of The Oath by Vaughn and Martin. Because, I mean, Doctor Strange The Oath is incredibly brilliant, but it's the only time that I could really say to myself, wow, that's a great Doctor Strange book. So, I kind of, some of these will include artists, some of them won't. And it's just, again, trying to think of people that have written the characters well, and so on and so forth. So, the two people that I thought of that would be really good for writing Doctor Strange would be either, some of these are kind of rote, so, but the first one that I thought of was Brian Michael Bendis, because he did such a great job with him in the New Avengers title, and just, I thought was really, really kind of, just, he was very smart with that series, and with his character, so I thought that above almost all of the other people that I could think of, he would be someone who would write him really, really well. And then the other person that I thought of that might even be better is Matt Fraction. Now, because what Matt Fraction has done, he's performed a kind of a mini miracle over at Marvel with Hawkeye. Is that he's basically taken what has always kind of been considered kind of a, certainly not a D-lister, but kind of like a B-list character, someone who's always in the background, someone who's never quite the leader, except like with, like the West Coast Avengers or something like that, and given him his own title, and it's brilliant. He just did a total game changer with this title, and I think that he's obviously has had experience writing him in the short-lived Defenders series they did with Amanda Connor, I want to say, at least for a while. And no, it's Dodson. Sorry, it's Terry Dodson. My apologies. I get them confused sometimes. But I think that he would be, even better than Bendis, because, again, of that idea of kind of changing the narrative and letting us look more into, Doctor Strange's personal life, like he's done with Hawkeye and like what Vaughn did in The Oath. So I just think that those would be at least my two choices for a Doctor Strange book. Number 9 on their list was The Punisher, surprisingly enough, because effectively, obviously, we just saw the Punisher kind of leave the hands of Greg Rucka and is now a part of whoever the hell, I think it's Daniel Way that's writing the Thunderbolts right now. And, that's just not a version of Frank Castle that I particularly care for. And to me, if there's going to be anybody, but the idea that they posited was not to actually have the Punisher be Frank Castle, but to actually be Rachel Cole Alves, which I think would be, the natural choice at this point in time, because we did, there was obviously, that was something that was left wide open at the end of Punisher Warzone, and I think that's something that really almost needs to strike while the iron is hot, because I'm afraid that people, because the Punisher did kind of, unfortunately, sadly undersell that, or I'm not really sure about that, though, because I don't get a whole lot into the statistical end of things, so I don't know if it was undersold, or if just Rucka felt like there was just no more story to tell, which I just doubt. I think that Rucka had more story to tell, particularly with Rachel. So if anybody is going to do another Punisher series, it would have to be Greg Rucka. That's the only name that I could think of. And if it's going to, especially if it's going to continue with Rachel Cole Alves. And the only two artists that I could think of that could possibly do that title would be either Marco Cicchetto or Michael Lark. Because Michael Lark does, his fantastic work that he's done recently on Winter Soldier, going back to his work on Daredevil with Brubaker. I mean, he's just he's the perfect kind of artist for that series. So, I mean, I literally can't think of any other author who would be able to do the Punisher as Rachel Cole Alves as well as someone like Rucka could do it. The number 8 choice for them was Black Widow, because, let's face it, I mean, she's the only member of the Avengers in the film who does not have her own book. She is a kind of a bit player in a number of different books, but I would like to see her have her own book. And so there are a couple different writers that I thought would be good for a Black Widow book. The first one, I kind of surprised myself, was Nick Spencer. But this is not really that much of a surprise, because the best stuff, one of my favorite books of the Fear Itself tie-ins was the Secret Avengers issue that Spencer wrote for Black Widow, because he really had her voice down pat. It was an awesome issue. And just really, that was what really just kind of set off bells in my mind as far as to who would be really good at writing her. Another person I thought was Kelly Sue DeConnick. And just because of the great work that she's doing, apparently, on Captain Marvel, I'm not reading it, so I don't know. I hear that it's very good. I'm thinking about maybe picking up the trade, because I know that it's out now. I wasn't too huge of a fan of the first issue, but, first issue, it's so hard to tell with the first issue as far as to where a particular book is going to go. And I've heard very good things about it. So, and I think that Kelly Sue DeConnick has, again, a very singular voice that could work really well for someone like Black Widow. Again, I also thought of Greg Rucka because, he knows the spy stuff. No one does, with maybe the exception of Ed Brubaker, nobody does better spies in comics than Greg Rucka does. Because, if you look at, just look at Queen and Country, and that's it. And someone who also does extremely strong female characters. Again, Queen and Country, Whiteout, with Rachel Cole Alves and The Punisher, that's kind of Rucka's forte. And he's brilliant at it. So he would be, it's like, I don't want to overuse certain people, but, also another person that I thought of, and this is kind of a strange choice, but I just thought it'd be kind of neat, would be Catherine Immonen. And mostly because of some of her other work is that I think, like Patsy Walker Hellcat, the series that she did with her husband, Stuart, and that was kind of a fun series, but I think that, again, because of, it being a female writer on a female character, and the kind of strengths that she has as a writer, I think would be greatly to that book's benefit, is that it could bring maybe a little bit more kind of, not necessarily lightness, but a little bit of levity to her story, because the story of Natasha Romanoff is a pretty bitter and dark one. And I think that just having that little bit of, kind of playfulness with Black Widow, like we saw in the Avengers film, would be a really big benefit, and end up being a really terrific book. So I think that Catherine Immonen could bring something like that to a solo Black Widow book. Like I said, I think any one of these authors could do a really good job with her. Then number 7 on their list was Silver Surfer. Now, Silver Surfer, to be perfectly honest, is a character I've never particularly cared for, and so I know, obviously, with Silver Surfer, it's big and it's cosmic, and it's huge, massive threats for for the most part for the stuff that I have read of the Silver Surfer. I mean, I'm not that into kind of the big spacefaring heroes or anything like that, but I mean, these were just again names just kind of off the top of my head, literally, because I have no idea who would be the perfect person to write Silver Surfer. I thought of Jim Starlin, because he does, obviously, with like the Adam Warlock stuff. I think that he would be good. I think that Peter David, he's obviously, I think he might have even done a Silver Surfer series at one point or another. Greg Pak, I think, would be also a good fit for Silver Surfer. And then I also came to Jonathan Hickman. Because again, I mean, here's someone with the big science, big space. He has a very strong sense of kind of this cosmic, epic storytelling. So I think that someone like Hickman would also be good as well. But again, it's a character that I kind of care less about. So the only time that I ever read Silver Surfer in anything that I kind of enjoyed was the kind of at the beginning of the Fraction Defender series, the Defender series with the short Defender series that was written by Giffen and DeMatteis, which was really fun. But I don't know what kind of tack that they would want to take with that. I'm sure that they would want to go much more in the serious direction. And number 6 was Cloak and Dagger, because fans keep clamoring for the return of Cloak and Dagger, and it's something that is like, why the hell hasn't this idea come to fruition yet? Why have we not seen a Cloak and Dagger book yet? I mean, what's the problem here? Let's get it going. And the only two people that I can think of that could do this, and this is a writer-artist team, is Nick Spencer and Emma Rios, because of the fantastic Spider Island stuff that they did, the miniseries they did for Cloak and Dagger during Spider Island, and we haven't heard anything from them since then. I mean, the only other person that I think could do a really good job with them is Vaughn, because of just the way that he really, really, he very brilliantly used them in Runaways. So, to be realistic, Nick Spencer and Emma Rios are really the only two people that I can see doing a great job with Cloak and Dagger, because they already have done a great job with Cloak and Dagger. So I just think that would be a really strong book for these two to start doing. The next one was number 5 was Captain Britain. Now, we've seen these abortive attempts to try and bring Captain Britain back kind of into the Marvel Universe at large. Obviously, because Excalibur's over, so there's nothing doing there. Chris Claremont, I don't even know if he's... I kept meaning to read the article that's actually in Newsarama about Chris Claremont and some of the things that he was talking about. And I don't know if he's planning on returning to comics, if that's even his thing anymore, if he just wants to kind of collect some residuals from all of the work that he's done. Now, depending upon that, I have no idea how much of that he actually owns, if it was just work for hire. Again, there's all that kind of contestation of, creators' rights and so on and so forth, but we're not going to get too much into that. But the person that really got me going with Captain Britain again was, because I've read the Alan Moore stuff, which is it's really out there, but it's really, really excellent. And then you have also the Jamie Delano stuff that was also done with Alan Davis. Um, I'm not a huge fan of Alan Davis as an author, but I could see him doing. I could certainly see him doing the art. But what I had more of an idea of was kind of a UK Avengers to actually bring together the heroes of Europe, if you will, in much the way that Captain Britain and MI13 did, or that they did briefly in the Union Jack miniseries London Falling. And that wasn't just Europe, it was kind of all over the place, Israel and Saudi Arabia and some of those places. So I mean it was just because you have some brilliant short series like Captain Britain and MI13 that Paul Cornell did, and it was just wonderful. It was my favorite. It was my favorite teen book at that time from Marvel, and I was so mad when they canceled it, but it happened. So the only thing that I could think of that would really get people kind of on board with a Captain Britain title would be a kind of UK Avengers, a teaming of like I said, the kind of or the European Avengers, if you will. So because the Avengers titles we always see pretty much the same people over and over and over again, with the exception of now we have New Avengers, which has some new faces in it, and Secret Avengers, which has some new players on the board with Coulson and Marcus Johnson, aka Nick Fury. But yeah, so I mean the people that I thought of for that. The last person that I thought of, and I was surprised I didn't think of it sooner, was Warren Ellis. I think could do a great job with a kind of Captain Britain slash kind of UK Avengers, because I want a British writer on this. The other person that I thought of was the other two people that I thought of were Nick Spencer again. But really the only reason that I thought of him is because, and I have no idea about his nationality. I think that Nick Spencer is British. I'm not sure, but I wanted a British writer or someone that I knew that could really write the characters well, and the other person would be Christos Gage, who did the Union Jack London Falling series. Because I know that Paul Cornell is kind of he's kind of persona non grata just about everywhere now. Kind of with Saucer Country and fucking his run on Demon Knights ending, and just the kind of not so successful run of Captain Britain and MI13. So he would be the other person that I would recommend, but again. And I think that he would do. I mean, if I had my choice of people, it would be Cornell again. But if I were to make, I think, a choice that would be more of an interesting idea to go forward and a more doable idea, it would be Warren Ellis. So yes, that's me recommending Warren Ellis for a comic. I know it's weird, but whatever. Number 4 was Heroes for Hire, because I mean you had the end of Bendis's run on New Avengers prior to Marvel Now, and that's just a title that's screaming to come back. I mean, to have Luke and Danny and Jessica working together and being the Heroes for Hire. I mean, that would be kind of like the hard traveling heroes of the new millennium. I think that would be a really cool idea. And again, the only real two people that I thought of for that would be either Bendis or Matt Fraction, again, because, like I said, one of them has obviously the rhythms of these people down pat. I mean, Bendis knows, obviously created Jessica Jones, so but just, really knows Luke and Jessica and Danny kind of inside out and back and forth. So, I mean, I think that he would be kind of the natural choice. Fraction, again, being kind of more of the fringe choice, but again, pointing back to what the great work that he's done with Hawkeye is, because he obviously knows how to take kind of these street-level heroes and, give more to them. So I think that would be another really, really interesting choice, and a more unusual choice than Bendis, because Bendis just seems to be the natural choice. But if they do get an artist, if this book does go to print and they have to select an artist, it has to be Mike Deodato Jr. Has to be. There's no other way, because he's such a brilliant artist, and I'm kind of shocked not to see him around right now, because of all of the great work that he did with New Avengers. It just seems that it's a waste, unless he's off doing some secret project that I have no idea about. So one way or the other, or if he's doing a book that I'm not reading, I don't know. But I think that Mike Deodato is the guy that kind of tends to pop up on my radar, at least for someone who I want to look at. So yeah, so like I said, that's just Bendis and Deodato is pretty much a no-brainer, but I think Fraction would be also an interesting choice as well. Amazing Spider-Man is their number 3, because getting into it's that this would be like maybe a year into Superior Spider-Man, and by this it's starting to look more and more like, yeah, Peter Parker is kind of, he's either on his way back, or we're going back to kind of, we're setting the status quo back to, yes, he's a guy, that Otto will be so, ostracized by his fellow heroes that he'll end up kind of doing the solo thing again, and he'll be without a job, and he'll have no money, and he'll just have to try to make his way back. So I don't know, but that, then you might as well just bring back Peter Parker, because why not? And if it does come to that, then I do think that it's time for Dan Slott to hang up the web shooters, because, like, it's a book. Superior Spider-Man started out, I think, really well, and of course I think Amazing Spider-Man ended really well. So I think that more than anything, it's time for him to stop. And I think if anybody's going to take over for him, there are 3 people that I have in mind for that. One of them would be kind of more of a dark horse running, but it would be great for him professionally, I think. And so the first person that I thought of is Christos Gage, just because of all the times, because he's being brought back in again to kind of give Slott a hand with Superior Spider-Man. The other person that I thought of that's kind of seems to be another natural choice is Chris Yost. Because Chris Yost just seems to, again, he really knows the character of Peter Parker kind of inside and out. So when they do eventually bring him back, I believe that somebody else needs to take over for Dan Slott. And I think that these 2 are kind of the natural choices. However, if I were to go for more of as I said, a dark horse, that would be Josh Fialkov. Because obviously Josh is working at Marvel right now. He's also kind of persona non grata at DC right now. Of course, he's doing the Devilers for Dynamite. Hopefully he'll be doing some more stuff for like Top Cow or Image or something like that, to have his own creator-owned stuff. But to see Josh Fialkov and what he's done, just some of the short work that he's done for Spider-Man, and then the work that he's doing right now in Alpha, I think that he would be a really, really good choice for Amazing Spider-Man to do Peter Parker. Because this is a guy who knows how to really shake up the status quo for his characters without totally destroying the characters in the process. He actually makes them more vital. He makes them more interesting. So this is just one of those talents that Josh Fialkov has. And we've seen it on iVampire. We're seeing it right now on Alpha. We could have seen it on Green Lantern Corps or Red Lanterns, as he was supposed to be doing, and we'll probably be seeing it again when he starts to write Ultimate Comics Ultimates, which I'm totally psyched for, except for, like I said, the fact that, as I said in my vlog, that my comics vlog a couple weeks ago, that it's going to be Carmine Di Giamenco doing the art, who did Punisher Warzone. So, but I'm hoping that, because like I said, the initial art does look better, to be fair. So we'll see. But I think Fialkov would be an interesting choice for him for Amazing Spider-Man. Anyway, number 2 is XFactor, because apparently that series is coming to an end. It's a series that I haven't read since it was the original 5. When it was Gene and Scott and Hank and Bobby and Warren, that was really the only time that I ever read XFactor. Now, I know that it really changed around a lot when I think Peter David took it over, and it became more of like a detective, it was like a detective story with Jamie Madrox leading it up. And I haven't, to be fair, I haven't read any of that XFactor run. And I would like to, because I hear really good things about it. But if I were to put a name to an XFactor book, there were 3 names that, again, because this is a title that I know little to nothing about now, so to give it some new kind of oomph, the first person that I thought of was Brian Wood, because of the work that he's done on Ultimate X-Men. Because obviously I think that this is a guy who, I think when he's not kind of duplicating his own work, like he has done, that's, the whole kind of, Reservation X story arc, and, how that kind of felt, apparently, to a lot of people like DMZ. I think that when he's not doing, that kind of thing, that he's doing because obviously he just totally reinvigorated Ultimate X-Men when he came on board. And I think that he could do a good job for the characters of XFactor. The other two people that I thought about were, again, Jonathan Hickman, but he's really got his hands full with, his two kind of the flagship Avengers book, and then there's of course New Avengers, and then of course there's his myriad of Image series, his creator-owned stuff like Manhattan Projects, and like he just started, his first issue of East of West came out today. I don't know if that's going to be an ongoing or if that's just going to be a limited series, but that's another new project that he's got going on right now. So again, it'd be interesting to see what he might be able to bring to that table. But the other person that I thought of was Jason Aaron. Is that, here's a guy who obviously he knows his mutants, and he knows how to bring the funny. He knows how to bring the drama. He can mix things up quite well. I just think that Aaron's in a bit of a slump right now because he, did the kind of, he's doing this kind of lame, this lame thing with, Logan's brother and everything like that. It's like, I don't care. So, but anyway, that's not really, I don't think that's bad of him to do. I think if it were a more interesting character, I would think it would be more interesting. The number 1 was, and this is kind of a no-brainer because of the whole Age of Ultron thing going on right now, and because of the upcoming, Phase 3 of Marvel Universe films. Number 1 was AntMan. And there is literally only one person that I think of that I think could do a good job with AntMan, and that's Mark Waid. Because, again, this is a guy who's taken and reinvigorated books. And, look at how brilliantly he's writing Hank Pym right now in the pages of Daredevil. So, it just seems to be such a natural combination. And I think that if somebody was going to do the artwork for that, I'd say it'd probably be Chris Samney. So I know we're talking about some major overextension for some of these guys, but I think that these are all viable options. And I would really like to hear from you as to who you think might be good for this who you think might be good for some of these titles. If you agree, totally disagree, partially disagree, somewhat agree, whatever, just let me know in the comments below. Because I think this is just an interesting topic to discuss, because we know that it's coming, but we don't know if it's going to be these books necessarily, and we don't know, obviously, who's going to be writing them, because we don't know that these books are going to be coming out. So, this brings me to my second part of the discussion that I wanted to have, which is, in specific, I got an email tonight from, I know him as High Resolutions Video 2011. And he is the gentleman that is doing the fantastic, monetarily thankless, but eternally heartfelt thanks of converting my vlogs into iTunes format. And I want to send this guy billions of dollars, if I had billions of dollars, to do this. But he wanted to basically. He wrote me this email saying that he has kind of a project that he is working on of his own original graphic series, original comic series that is he's saying might be an original graphic novel, might be it might end up being individual issues, and thinking of doing kind of a pay-as-you-want version, maybe getting it to a print run. He is a writer artist. So it'll be all his, is what I'm assuming. I can't tell you too much about the project because I personally don't know that much about the project, but from the page that I'm going to direct you to go to, I think you'll see that it looks like a really interesting project just from the cover that he's created. And the website is, and I'll put a link to it in the description bar of this video, is nightlycomics.com. And, it says that the story is completely science fiction and a little bit historical. It's not a superhero book. There's no length. It's not trying to do a Kickstarter. It's just trying to garner interest. So what I am telling you to do is to go to nightlycomics.com. And there is a link or not a link, there's an area where you can put in your email address to subscribe for updates from this site. Because obviously the more traffic that is there, the more interest can be generated. And so I would ask you, all of you out there who are watching this right now, after this is done, go to this website, put in your email address. You can get updates about this site. You'll get an email back right away confirming your subscription, so on and so forth. You know the deal. And then you yourself let people know. Pass it along. Pay it forward. Whatever you want to call it. It's very simple. This is obviously a guy who works hard. He's doing all this work on his own time. He's doing his conversions of the iTunes stuff for me for nothing. Just because he's a really, really cool guy. I don't even know his name. But just that, know that he subscribes to me, obviously, on YouTube. And he is just super awesome. So the art for this cover looks fantastic. And looks like it's a very interesting image to look at for a cover of a comic. So go to nightlycomics.com, put in your email address for the subscription box, and then, like I said, pay it forward. Let people know in your own videos. I know, I'm talking to everybody out there. I'm talking to Sleepy Reader. I'm talking to I'm talking to Agent 42Q. I'm talking to Ghost Critic. You have your 900 subscribers now. I'm talking to son of a bitch. My fucking head is gone. The Gaunt Man on Twitter. He's God damn it. Why can't I think of his YouTube channel right now? I feels like such an asshole. I'm just gonna look and pull it up on the tablet here because I'm sick of forgetting this shit. Come on. Alright, here's my channel feed. And, you know, all you out there, Gambit 896, of course. Oddfellow's Thoughts, that's it, I'm sorry. I don't know why it took me so long. But just, you know, all you folks out there who are, you know, who are into this stuff and, you know, are watching me, watching my videos, give a shout out, put it on your page. Let people know that this guy is out there and he wants to show you something pretty damn cool. So just let people know. And gets enough interest, who knows what can happen from there. You know, gets enough subscribers, again, who knows what can happen. So, you know, again, obviously trying to do what I can to get into comics myself, you know, writing scripts, so on and so forth. I can't draw worth a shit, so it doesn't really, you know, but that, you know, people trying to get started in this business is very kind of near and dear to my heart, especially when it is somebody who has already been doing, you know, who's already a friend. So please go and just, like I said, pass it along. Get people to go there. And so with that, I will leave you. So I want to thank you again for watching. If this is your first time here, please go ahead and subscribe. And thumb it up, thumb it down, let me know what you think, and don't forget to go to nightlycomics.com, okay? You know, and sign up for the newsletter. So that's it for tonight and for our shorty vlog. There's 42 minutes, not very short, but it's short enough. It'll get you to and from work if you pause it. So it's if you work not too far away. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're listening on iTunes, and just let's hear back from you, people. So again, thank you for watching. This has been the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. Just reminding you, as always, to stay in the shadows.